Hi, this is Matt with Proactive Dealer Solutions, and today we are kicking off a new series called Tales of Modern Retailing. And with me today is Mark Prokopenko, the VP of McDonald Auto Group, and we're going to talk about what he's done over the last couple of years to revitalize his BDC. So stay tuned for a great conversation. Hey Mark, really appreciate you joining us today. Really appreciate it, and we really wanted to talk about McDonald Auto's, your digital strategy. So I understand about a year and a half ago, you guys decided that you really needed to revitalize your digital strategy and do something new. Can you just kind of help share why is that? What made you decide you needed to do this?
Well, we went back and forth over the years with having a centralized BDC and a non-centralized BDC. We were a growing store, and we got to 5 stores, and so we didn't have anything centralized, so we decided to centralize it. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, before we did anything, we called Proactive, just to ask them how to set it up, right? We hadn't hired a manager yet. We had a few people that were helping with internet, but we didn't have a lot of leads coming in, and so we kind of just revamped that whole internet digital strategy, bringing more in through the digital ad, through our ads and stuff like that, coming into our website. So the amount of volume on our leads just started to grow and grow and grow. We needed to come up with a plan, and so we called Proactive, said, "Hey, how do we do this?" And they helped us right from the beginning, setting us up, getting through hiring the manager, and then we started to have them come on site and getting them trained to get up to speed. So, that's taken the last year and a half, 2 years.
Great. So digging into this a little bit more, what were some of the specific challenges you were having with the internet department that made you decide to centralize it and do this? What were some of the issues you guys were running into?
Well, just, what's the process, right? How do we follow up? What should we follow up? What is that process for following up? What should we say? How do we get templates? Just that whole process of getting templates set up, understanding what the process is between texting, phone calls, emails, on that first day, second day, just that whole process. We weren't doing really well. We were just handing them over to the salespeople, and then the salespeople weren't following up. So just that whole process was a breakdown. And so we just started right back from the beginning. And once we got the staff hired, Proactive started coming in and training us, training them, and getting the templates set up, getting the processes set up. And once we did that, we just continued to add more and more leads to it, adding into our digital advertising, and then just kept those leads growing, kept adding some people to it, training, and just a constant process really for the last year and a half to get it up to where it is today.
Right. And it's funny that you mentioned the templates and things, because one of the big things we do focus on is the fact that we need to make sure templates don't sound like a template. Nobody just wants a form letter from a company. And so I'm just curious, when we've come in and we've helped you guys implement that, what's the response been like? What have you seen from that?
Well, it's been a lot better. Of course, from the customer standpoint too, we also had, we were a Cadillac dealer as well. So one of our brands being Cadillac, we had Cadillac Pinnacle, and they shop us, and that's part of our whole earning our brand standards and things with Pinnacle, that they had a specific kind of template they wanted us to follow, and so that kind of helped. Of course, from what we were doing to what Cadillac wanted seemed like a far ways, a big step from where we were to what they wanted and all the information. But, that really helped us to really put a good template together to use for every customer, new or used, or what brand.
Right, absolutely. And so with that said, I also understand, we really focus on KPIs and what does success look like. And so can you share, what were some of the KPIs that we came up with your team? What are the expectations from the people in your BDC now? What does that look like?
Well, certainly you want response time, right? So one of the things is trying to respond within, certainly within 15 minutes you want to be able to respond within minutes. That was kind of one thing. But then certainly the closing ratio is another thing that we kind of monitor with the internet leads, is where are we at with that? And initially when we started, we were probably, 2 or 3% maybe. And so we've had to, look at that and try to revamp that. So there's a lot that goes into that, right? You've got the amount of people that you have handling the leads, how many leads per person. And then you take that into what kind of leads are they? Certainly there's a lot to that process to get it honed in to figure out, are all the leads good? Are they bad leads? Should they be in a campaign bucket? Things like that. But once we figured that out and honed it in, looked at the number of people we needed, and then really started to push to get that closing ratio up there. And I think, one of our stores last month was 12 or 13% closing ratio.
Wow.
And maybe 7% for our other stores. So yeah, it's been a big change.
Wow. And, it's funny because when we talk about KPIs a lot of times, I always ask this when I walk into a BDC or an internet sales department is, what does success look like? If I go to a rep, I should be able to say, what's a good job? If you walk out the door at the end of the day, how do you know you did a good job? And they should be able to give, one answer, and it should be tied to KPIs. What are the numbers? What are we looking for in order to consider this a success? Not just, well, we want to make appointments or, we want to close deals, of course, but we should have goals for those numbers. What are we chasing? What's the number? How am I going to get there? How am I supposed to hit the target if I don't know what the target is? And that's a lot of this is bringing clarity to that role. And I take it you've seen that with your department?
Yeah. We started with I guess what an industry standard might be is you take your leads, 50% of those you hope to set appointments with, 50% of those you hope show, and then 50% of those you hope you sell. And you can work things backwards from there and find out where the leak is, right? So are you not setting enough appointments, or are the appointments you're setting not enough are showing, or what's showing, are you not selling enough, selling, which could then mean it could be back in the showroom. Once they're there, we could be having a problem there. So all those different metrics we look at and measure and see where we're at.
Absolutely. And I understand you have a strategy called, and I have to look at this because the phrasing is just great. I love this. No contact customer second call. Help me understand. What are we doing there? So I take it it's when we're reaching out, we don't get a customer on the phone. What's that strategy and why did we put that into place?
I'm going to have to, that's one that's a little bit beyond me a little bit. I'd have to ask them. And so I'm not really sure what the result is with that, but certainly, to have a process, if you're not getting a hold of someone, there's got to be that next process. Is it an email? Is it a phone call the next day if you're not getting a hold of them? And then how far out does that go? We certainly measure that. And we also try to measure out, 7 days, 14 days, 25 days, drive growth and things like that from General Motors especially will show us customers that have come into our CRM and have bought somewhere else in those days, and where's our leak? And then you try to adjust the process to include that to hopefully not lose them down the road,
And I actually love what you just said there about adjusting the process, because a lot of times what I see is, a dealership will set up a process and then they never revisit it. They never go in and they don't tweak it. They're like, okay, it's done, it's set, and they put it in the CRM and it fires off and there it is, we're just done with it. And what you just said there is really key. Whatever initiative we're doing, we should be constantly tweaking it. We should be changing it. Are we getting the results that we expect out of it, and what do we need to do in order to change that? So I'm just kind of curious, how often are you expecting to change your processes based on this, and what does that communication between you and that BDC department look like, and how we're defining success with that?
Well, we certainly have meetings all the time, but we look at our monthly review, see where we're at, see what leads we got in, what was our ratios with all of these number of appointments, how many did we bring in, how many did we sell, and we look at those and then we'll tweak from that for sure. One of the things that we looked at and tweaked a little bit was, just our leads, and so it's constantly changing. We look at our closing ratios for all the different sources. And so some of them are lower, third-party vendors are lower than, say, your website leads. And so we're constantly trying to drive more website leads because that's the better lead close. But one of the other things we found is, our leads dropped from last summer over time. The market changed a little bit and our leads dropped about 30%, but yet we ended up selling more, And so that's what told us, hey, look, our closing ratio went up with less leads. So maybe our people have too many leads, and we need to take some away and find ways to get some of those bad leads out of their way so that they don't have to spend their time on some of that stuff and spend more time on the good leads. And then your closing ratio goes up, you sell more. And so it's a constant, looking at that process, looking at the leads and finding ways to change that.
And it's funny because, I'm a big proponent, failure breeds fatigue. And a lot of times dealers say, I want more leads, I want more leads. And what I'm really big on is, you have enough leads. How about let's maximize the ones you do have? Let's squeeze more out of what we do have before we just go saying, I need more, I need more. No, what are we doing with the ones we have? And let's focus on those and do it the right way.
That's right. And that's what we, early on in our stage with the BDC, when we started getting it going, getting the personnel in there, trying to get our internet leads up, that's what we did, was we looked for all sources to bring all sorts of leads in, just trying to drive traffic in there. And now it's become more of, let's try to go find the good traffic and do away with the bad ones and try to focus our time there. One, it can save money in the long run because you don't have to have as many BDR reps, right, as to handle all those leads, because if you have less people and you have less leads but sell more, that's a great ratio to have,
Yeah, I say all the time, a lot of times we spend, 80% of our time on the 20%, chasing those bad leads, like you said, and following up with that. Where I want to spend 80% of my time on the 80%, the customers who actually want us to engage and are actually looking to purchase a vehicle. Let's concentrate on that and not, that other part. So speaking of that, I understand you also kind of moved, because when you kind of centralized, you moved the location of that internet department. Why did you do it? What was the purpose behind it? And what have you seen with where you moved it to?
Yeah, well, originally we started with a couple of BDRs in the showroom. They were in cubicles, and we started there, and then realized quickly that that's not the best environment with salespeople around and that. So we found a private room upstairs and started there, and then we outgrew that room, and then moved into a building next door into some office space, and then are now there. I guess, the biggest thing with that, of course, is when they have their own environment and no one else is bothering them, one, they can be way more efficient, but two, just from a training perspective, if you set it up right and the manager can oversee them and listen in, and they can really properly train, on a by call basis if needed. And it's really good for the room. You can put monitors up, they can see everyone. We've created a competitive environment now where they can see each other's leads and how they're doing each day with appointments. And so it's a competition each day. And so, yeah, you can do that much better when you get to the right environment.
And I love that competition environment, because we have that in sales all the time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're in a competitive business, right? We all are competitive people to be in this business, but certainly the BDC should be no different. And so we've treated it the same way. And they are all competitive, and it is amazing where one person might have set so many appointments for the day and another one's one or two behind, and how they will make more calls towards the end of the day to try to beat that other person. And then the other person will also pick up their game to not get beat at the end of the day. So it really helps keep working all the way through the day instead of just at the beginning where the energy's strong. So yeah, it's been pretty good.
That's awesome. I also understand you guys have really embraced, and you're doing a lot of personalized video, more dynamic content. Help us understand, what made you move in that direction? Also, what have you seen from that?
Well, we've certainly tried to create a little bit better experience for the customers. We've started with a VIP process, and it starts with the BDC. And so when they set those appointments and are talking to the customer, we will ensure that they understand there's a VIP process to this. Their car will be pulled up front and waiting for them with a tag on it, with their name on it, so that they come in, they feel really excited about seeing their car pulled up already. We've gotten the sales staff involved in that, and so certainly with the videos as well, trying to get early on, get the customers to understand or get to see the car, do a walk around with it, try to integrate that into the responses. Or once the appointment's set, the salesperson can also do that, showing them their vehicle's ready and waiting for them. So it's been a really good process, trying to single ourselves out, separate ourselves from the rest of the competition, create that great experience for the customer.
And I love what you said there, separate yourself out from the competition. What are you doing different from the guy down the street, and how important that is to really understand. And video, especially the younger generations, millennials and Gen Zers, who are the largest buying segment of cars in the U.S. now, they really respond to video very well. But you have to, and it has to be something of quality, like you said, a walk around on the vehicle, not just a, hey, how you doing kind of thing, but look, it's ready, let me show you a feature of it, something like that can really set yourself apart from what everyone else is just sending the thanks for your inquiry kind of thing.
Yeah, and one of the things we learned, it doesn't have to be a studio production video, right? It can be a simple video. Everyone today is accepting of those things. Mm-hmm. And so it's just getting people to understand that it doesn't have to be very elaborate, but it's just the touch that matters, and it makes a difference. I think a few years ago, it was probably, whoever responded the quickest and understood that, started to win. And now today, everyone understands that and responds quickly. So now it becomes about templates and how good are your people trained with their wording and talking to the customer, or what's the experience with the videos or their experience when they come in. So just trying to keep changing with the world and trying to get better.
That's awesome. So with all this said, bringing it together, and you talked a little bit about this, about the successes you've had, but help us understand. So what was kind of our baseline? Where were we starting? What was our percentages or close rates when you started? And what are you seeing, what does success look like now? What are you doing right now?
So I would say we were probably about 3%, if that, mm-hmm. When you tracked it, and that would be all leads, right? And mm-hmm. So we've crawled our way to 5% and then 7%. Some stores, like I said, were 12 or 13%. Certainly our website leads have now gone up over 10% for every store, right? So that 10 to 13, 14% even on website leads, trying to drive them to that. And so, it's been a huge difference, huge change, but it's been great. And, that's when you look at the amount of leads coming in for 5 stores, that's a significant increase in sales, right? That can be the difference between, at the start with one store or whatever, and then selling 30 cars to now 100 cars. It's a big difference, and you do the math on $3,000 a copy or whatever you might be bringing in. It's a huge number with what the department's doing.
So my last question for you as we kind of wrap up here is, looking back over this whole initiative, what are some of your biggest takeaways or lessons? If you could have gone back and told yourself, 2 years ago when you were starting all of this, what were some of the big takeaways or lessons that you would advise other dealers, like pay attention to this? What are some of those takeaways that you had from this?
First of all, you need to have someone on your side that really understands this part of it and helps to train, because the one thing that I think we find is in going back, there's a disconnect. You think you're doing something for the good, but even your sales management and your sales staff don't quite understand that. And so they fight that process. And so our biggest hurdle was to really get everyone on board with this process. Sales managers really getting to work with the BDC manager and the agents and really making it work. And it really was a struggle. So I think, one, understanding to go find a partner that understands this industry, knows how to set it up, knows how the processes should be. That's the key to really getting it going and setting it up and doing it right? So that's really recognizing that, I would say, and getting your whole team involved.
And you did. I think, what you said there is people think, you know, there's just going to be an easy button. They might have went to a 20 group meeting or something and they said, oh, this is what we did with our BDC. And so someone else goes, okay, I'll just go do a BDC, check the box. And it's not about checking the box. You really have to go through the process and make sure everyone's on board with this thing to really see the growth and development from this.
Yeah, for sure. And human nature is to fight it. And if you don't have something there to push through it, it'll fold and fail, right? And so for us, the people that helped us push through it was proactive, right? Without them, you know, we may have caved and just gave in to the people and them not wanting to change. But it's that regular person coming in all the time and doing the dealership, talking to you, making sure the process continues to work. You know, that's what really made the difference.
Okay. Well, Mark, I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your success with us and letting us put this out there to everyone. It's been a great journey together so far, and I mean, you already look at the success we've had. It'll be amazing to see where we're going to be next year. And you know, how I say all the time, how high is high, right? Where can we reach next?
Right.
It doesn't matter where we start. It matters where are we going and what's the plan and how we're going to get there. So really looking forward to seeing where we can we take this thing going forward.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, it's going to be encouraging to see. It'll be fun to see where we end up. Certainly, you know, we're in the car business and it's never enough, right? So we'll keep pushing.
That's right. How high is high? Just keep going, right? we always want
That's
more.
right.
All right, Mark, appreciate it.
That's
Thank you
right.
so much for your time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We'll see ya. Bye.
We really wanted to thank Mark for joining us today on our first episode of Tales of Modern Retailing. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow us for future episodes, and also visit us on proactivedealersolutions.com if you're looking for any help on how to revitalize your BDC. I'm Matt Lowery, and join us for future episodes in the future.